To My Skin is My Sin presents another episode of Intellectually Petty Radio. And today we welcome back to the conversation uh In Fact's own founder, Grandmaster J, is in the house. How you doing, King?
Still black, my brother. How are you?
I'm still black, man. Still black. You feeling okay? How's your family?
Everything's fine.
I'm glad to hear that, man. What's new, man? How are I like to tread lightly as far as like we are all aware of the court situation. Are you able to speak on what's going on with that or not?
It's best that I not.
Okay, understood.
Things that
Ha-
I say are still used against me. I am still limited in my First Amendment, my Second Amendment, and my Fourth Amendment rights are still curtailed.
mhm.
It's obvious that they're dragging this thing out. So it would be beneficial if I did not delve into details that could come back to haunt me. What I will let everybody know, if they're wondering, since most people are under the false impression that my cases just went away, that a federal case just up and went away, that it's all over. Some people are living under that delusion. That's
Mhm.
exactly what they want you to do. They want you to forget. They want you to go away. They want you to move on and go back to sleep. Current status of my federal case is that I had 5 charges. 4 were dropped. I was indicted on 1, and they're still talking about it.
Okay.
5 charges from the state have not been indicted at all. Have a
Mm.
hearing on the 24th
Okay.
for the state. That's where we are right now. Anything else is relevant to the case, and I'm not at liberty to talk about it.
Okay.
I am very
Um.
much still fighting the case. I am still here in my home where I've been now for almost 4 or 5 months. I am not talking on social media. I find it interesting that I've had this time to sit back and just observe everything and watch everyone and just watch everything, not just with our people, but
Mhm.
with everyone, with the government that just came in, the white folks that are still hanging around, the aftermath of the Trump administration, and where we are as a people right now, the temperature of what has happened in this country with regards to police shootings, the blatant racism that still appears to be running rampant through the system, the fact that a sitting congresswoman can make a statement about a verdict that hadn't even been passed yet, about how she felt in the moment and how they wanted to censor her and correct her, but did nothing. When a white man, who's also a sitting congressman, threatened me and my organization last year, if you remember, and they did nothing to him. They just kind of ignored it, even though we acted on his threat. So um, there are a lot of things that are at play right now. So
Mhm.
I want to be careful so that I don't, quote unquote, step on my own toes, if you understand what I'm saying.
Absolutely. Are you disappointed in black people right now?
I love my people, and I always will. What I've come to learn is uh, sometimes experience is the best teacher.
Mm.
You can talk to us about something all day, but until you experience it, you never understand all of the intricacies and all of the cracks and crevices that are involved in it. I've been taught about the civil rights movement all my life. I've watched the old films and, I've seen all the films of the great folks like Martin Luther King and Malcolm X shot down and Robert Kennedy assassinated running for president and Malcolm X killed and taken out of a theater in Harlem. I've watched all of those things, but I never understood the dynamics. You had to be there, type thing to feel it, to understand why they say that Martin Luther King was the most hated man in America when they killed him. Yet they lift him up today. Malcolm X was one of the most hated men in Black America when they killed him. But now they lift his name up. So I wouldn't say that I'm disappointed in Black people. I will say that I've learned that we all come from different places.
Mhm.
Because of that, different types of Black blood flow in our veins. And some of us, our differences go a lot further back than slavery. So I'm not disappointed.
Mhm.
I'm surprised that we still, after all these years, still haven't learned that we sometimes are our own worst enemy.
Man, you ain't lying about that. And I got my co-host on the line too, man. What's good, Rome? You good?
Peace. Peace, Grandmaster Jay. How you doing, bro?
Still black, brother. How you doing?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Peace and blessings.
Have you I know you can't speak on social media. Have you seen anything lately that has bothered you?
Social media.
Just in the whole, huh?
Social media needs to be shut down. It needs to be shut down for at least a year
Are you
so that we can
serious?
get back to being human beings, so we can learn when it is appropriate to open our mouths about certain things to certain people. So we can learn that a lot of people bring their own insecurities, their own inhibitions, their own prejudices, and everything else that makes this a very cold and perverted world has somehow manifested itself into this medium that we call social media, which is nothing but a bunch of free programs running on someone else's platform where people tend to say and do things as if they're in some protected bubble. Social media has become the garbage can, the toilet of society. It needs to be shut down. It doesn't need to be censored. It needs to be shut down. And maybe when we all start over again, we will learn to appreciate what we had. I
Um,
come from a time, I come from a time before social media. I come from a time before cell phones, before pagers, before mobile phones were even mobile, when all you had was a phone in your house attached to a wall. I come from a time where you didn't go out in the street and talk to strangers about the business in your house. That's why it was your house. I come from a time when you had a problem with somebody, you either picked up the phone or you went to see them. And if you didn't do either one of those, you hadn't addressed the problem. I come from a different time. To see that we've achieved all this technological growth,
Hmm.
or at least partake in it, but we have not evolved sociologically as people. It's just like giving a blowtorch to a baby or a gun to a monkey.
I actually agree with that. I'm a firm believer that technology has somewhat devolved us as a society, especially with upon social media. Like everybody is a social media savvy. You know what I mean? Yeah, everybody's on social media has something to say. You know, like doesn't necessarily mean it's of relevance. It doesn't mean it's true. It doesn't even mean it even matters. You know, we're living in an age now where you can just say anything. There's no accountability for anything.
Yeah.
You know,
Let me interject right there, my brother. I developed a reputation in the early days of social media, in the early days, before it became this rigid framework where you're penalized just for saying something about something that you probably didn't even bring up. I come from
Mhm.
a time when the internet was wide open and you could say anything and you could research anything, but you could also find anybody if you put your mind to it and you knew how. Some of us developed reputations as pull-up masters. What we found out, and what a lot of other people found out, that yes, the internet gave rise to what I call the keyboard coward. The internet gave rise to what I call the avatar hater. It gave rise to all of that, but it also gave rise to something else. It gave rise to the pull-up masters, those people that will give you the opportunity to say what you said on social media to their face. And what we found out was that the number of individuals who were willing to stand on their keyboard thuggery was
Mhm.
far few and in between. A lot of people made the mistake of forgetting there are real people on the other end of those keyboards. And now here we are almost 20 some years later, because I remember when Google first came out in 99 as a crawler. If you don't know what a crawler was, it used to crawl on the backs of other search engines. It didn't know how to search for anything. It was just an engine that helped you search other engines. And when that happened, we knew then and there that once people got wind of this,
Mhm.
everybody would come. And now here we are 20 years later, and look at what it has degenerated into. It
yeah.
has become just what you said. An opinion is like an asshole. Everybody has one. And don't nobody ass smell good. So if you think your opinion is going to out opinion someone else, then the social media is the perfect place for you to air out your opinions where nobody really has to either listen to you or they can with no receipts, no proof, just attitude all day. We took one of the greatest tools handed to man and turned it into the very thing that has set us back time and time again. The power of life and death is in the tongue, whether it's in your face or coming over your cell phone.
No doubt. No doubt.
So let me ask you this. After the case is over, you have been found out not guilty, where do you see INFAC in a year?
I can't answer that question until these cases are over. I don't know why people don't seem to understand that my focus right now is facing a possible 20 years, trumped up as it may be, in federal prison. That's my focus right now. That's my focus. Let me say that again. That's my focus. I find it interesting that there are so many people walking around focused on everything else but that. I didn't get here by myself. I got here because a year ago at this time, right about now, I was sitting up in the house on quarantine, getting fed up the same way y'all getting fed up right now about all of the situations that are going on. Y'all fed up about 20-year-old Dante getting the taser or the gun. We don't know. Y'all upset about 42-year-old Mr. Brown who was shot in the back. They said it was an execution, the way they blew the man's head off. 32-year-old. You got another brother, Isaiah Brown. He was shot 10 times by a cop. They gave him a ride home and they don't know how that happened. Then we got, of course, Makia Bryant. They shot her as soon as they pulled up. Y'all got plenty to be upset about right now. The same way last year, this time, I got upset about Ahmaud Arbery. I got upset about Breonna Taylor. It's always going to be something going on. Always. The only difference was I got pissed about it. And I did something about it. So what's in the future for INFAC? That ain't the question. The question is, all you people that wasn't thinking about nothing like this a year ago, it wasn't nowhere on your mind. I don't care what organization you claim you belong to. Nobody was active like this at all. So we kickstarted it and now gave the blueprint to everybody. Yet everybody's sitting around wondering what is INFAC going to do. You know what? I'm hearing so many people who think they got this thing figured out, who don't seem to understand that what I did last year, I caught them off guard. They're not going to be unprepared this time around. They've already passed 34 new gun legislation bills this year alone. And most of them are in response to what they saw Black people do last year. Don't you know they passed a law in Florida, Ohio, and it's one other state where now it's legal for people in cars to run down protesters? Well, I wonder who they made that for. Did you know that when we went to Stone Mountain last year and we went up to Stone Mountain to answer the threat, not to talk about a statue, I don't care what story they told you. Don't you know that the Ku Klux Klan and the Sons of the Confederacy have been coming there for almost 36 years, every Memorial Day weekend, so they could, do the white thing, burn a cross, talk about how great it was when this was the home of the Klan. They came back this year and they were told, no, you will not do that here anymore. They said, why not? Because we changed the law. No one can come up in here anymore. No one can march up in here anymore. No more. They said we don't have the resources to protect you anymore. They're like, what are you talking about? We've been doing this for years. We cannot protect you from what we saw last year. They changed the law. They just signed the no-knock warrant in Kentucky. Now the governor just signed it.
Now,
Let me I need y'all to understand something. That what I'm seeing right now is that people are acting like nothing changed from last year. It did change. We got a new administration that's big on gun control. We got a new administration. Watch this. We got a new administration and a new president that did on day one what I was going to do on day one. He did for the Asians what I was going to do for black folks on day one, use executive privilege to create an agency within the federal government so that a citizen is involved in a police-involved shooting like the ones we talking about right now, it would automatically become federal. It wouldn't even go to anybody local, no grand juries, no nothing. And then on top of that, any lawsuits and any type of damages or so forth that had to be paid will come out of the police pension fund. That's what I was going to do day one when I sat down. Isn't it amazing that we got a president, did all these amazing things on day one for everybody except the people that he asked to vote him in the office. Y'all hear me talking?
We did vote him in the office. So he asked,
yes,
and we did this.
Yes, we did. Yes, we did. Matter of fact, he went on the radio and said, if you don't vote for me, you're not black.
That he did.
Which was his way of saying, vote for me, because I know you're stupid enough to fall for this. Because you're not asking me for anything. The same way we didn't ask Barack Obama for anything. We just was glad he was black. Yep. We knew we couldn't ask Trump for nothing. Hell, we was lucky to get out of that administration by the skin of our teeth. Yep. People don't seem to understand. NFAC was born out of the Trump administration. It wasn't born just because.
Made it hella easy for Biden to get elected.
Very easy. Yes. Very easy. I wanted to talk real quick about two things, though. Okay. We had the situation in Atlanta where they had the guy that shot up the spot. And then we had the situation where the guy went into the grocery store in Denver, shot up the place. And then we had the ex-co-worker at FedEx went up there and shot up the place. We had all these mass shootings back to back, plus all of the police-involved shootings, whether they're kids or whether somebody claimed they didn't know. Woo. I want to share something with y'all. I said this a while back. I said, and it's interesting you all are asking me about the status of my case. Think about it. They're not going to move on my case while the Chauvin trial was going on.
Right.
They weren't going to do that. That was a very tricky slope they was on. Suppose, let's say they found me, they dropped my stuff. So I'm free. I'm back on the street. And then they don't find that boy guilty. You think they didn't have a meeting about that? Nah, keep him where he at until we find out what this thing gonna do. Okay? But I said it then and I'll say it now. And y'all need to understand what you're witnessing. Because we did the same thing when OJ was acquitted the first time back in the day. Remember this? If they find him not guilty, it's going to be a black and people of color backlash. If they find him guilty, if they find him guilty, it's going to be a black backlash. If they find him not guilty, it's going to be a police backlash. Now think about it. When they said that Chauvin was guilty, a lot of us OGs that was sitting back going, you know what? You watch what the police about to do now. I don't care if you sneeze wrong. Yeah, you're going to get this work. And what has happened since that verdict? It's been, hell, they didn't even get the verdict out the door good.
Every day.
Yeah. Every day is somebody now. Yeah. Every day, oh, I made a mistake. Oh, I slipped. Oh, this, oh, that. There's always going to be a backlash. There's always been backlashes. Our job as a people is we've been backlashed enough that we should know it's coming and be prepared for it. And everybody should act accordingly. Y'all know the moment they convicted that boy, that every black person in America should have been like, well, if I get pulled over, it's a different mode altogether. If you didn't see that coming, same thing. When Trump lost the election, what I don't want to say white backlash because it's not all white people. I call it the white Trump backlash. Okay? Because now what you got is all of these people who was comfortable for 4 years being openly racist and nothing happening to them. Riding up and down the street with Confederate flags. They ain't care. They told both of y'all that y'all can't be black right now because it's after 2:00 and y'all just have to be indignant. All those people have been forced back underground. So now they're getting you in, whatever their job is.
Yeah. Backhanded ways.
There's going to be some backlash. So we was already under Trump backlash anyway, right? Now we under Chauvin backlash because cop had to go to jail. He had to take one for the team this time. But they said that's cool because as soon as they walked him out that door, they start busting us in our ass.
Man, did they ever?
And if people are not aware, I want to bring that to everybody's attention. They had I mean, come on, that case was so obvious. If they had let him walk out of there, it would just been, there would have been white people that have been like, come on, y'all. Come on, man. Come on, fam. Really? It's a year later. Nothing's changed. I tell you what is changing. They about to enact red flag laws. Red flag laws, meaning if I feel like both of y'all shouldn't have a weapon because y'all scare me, I can pick up the phone. They can come to your house, take your stuff. They are now passing laws that restrict law-abiding citizens, not criminals. I don't know not one criminal who goes through a background check.
Right.
Do you? So tell me how all of this gun control is going to stop criminals.
It's not.
It's not.
It depends on where you affect the gun control. If you start with the manufacturers, then yeah.
That's not.
And I will say this too, like you should not be able to purchase a gun. Like I should not be able to come over to your house and buy a gun. I should not be able to just randomly have a transaction with a firearm and you not know that I'm not a nutcase or that I'm not, I can legally purchase this firearm.
I want to hear the other brother's opinion before I speak.
Nah, I'm with you. I'm pro gun. Like I'm pro gun. Like I carry every day, bro.
So let's do something that they don't think black people do, but we do when they're not. Let's engage in a very educated conversation about the history. When they scream gun control, they act like we don't have laws on the books. When you start talking about some of the laws, I'm talking at the federal level. I'm not talking about your little local laws around your city. But if you knew your history, you'll find out that every time that something like this doesn't happen, at some time in the past, they put a law in place to deal with it. The question is, are the laws being enforced? Now, this is 2021. But when you talk to people about the National Firearms Act, you got all these cats out here running around thinking they gun dealers and gun licensed dealers. But when you talk about the NFA, they're like, oh, yeah. Really? That was passed back in 1934. 34. Now you got to understand what they did was even when they wrote it, they had to modify it because they said that it was unconstitutional in so many ways. In 1938, they passed a law called the FFA, which required all the gun manufacturers, the importers, and the dealers to obtain a firearms license. You didn't have to have a license before then. We're talking in the 30s, y'all. We're talking Tommy guns, machine guns, all that shit was going on. This white people killing white people. It had nothing to do with us. Gun control had nothing to do with us at first. Then you had, in 1939, they had a case called United States versus Miller, where they ruled that Congress could regulate the interstate selling, watch this, of short barrel guns. They said that didn't have shit to do with the Second Amendment. It did not guarantee you a sawed-off. Okay? You can get a long rifle for that. They did that back in 39. Then in 68, after Kennedy got killed. See, people got to realize this country already has been through, after Kennedy got killed, after Robert Kennedy got killed, after Martin Luther King got killed, and President Johnson pushed legislation. That was when we had the Gun Control Act of 1968. They put these laws in place and they even added stuff that we hadn't even thought of. They was talking about bombs and grenades and mines, and they expanded the definition of a machine gun. This is way back 60 years ago. It wasn't until 86 when they passed the Firearms Owners Protection Act. Now that's when they tried to help us out because now the government was overreaching. They were starting to ask for all kinds of stuff. Now, that's why they had to put laws in place when they had the Brady Handbill of Violence Act after they tried to kill Reagan. Yeah, like my man said, I shouldn't be able to come over your house and just buy a piece off of it. Right. I have to have an idea of who I'm selling the weapon to because it can come back on me. You understand what I'm saying? We got to have some kind of record, you know, in case maybe he was cool all this time, but now he done found out somebody's wife. I don't know. And now he in flip mode and I don't know it. You know what I'm saying? So maybe I do want to keep a record of that. If y'all remember when they had the DC sniper, when the DC sniper was on the loose, I was stationed down at Fort Bragg, North Carolina when that happened. And that was right up the road in Virginia.
Right.
Don't you know that they was trying to find everybody who owned an AR-15 to make sure you had your weapon? And if you didn't have your weapon, you had to tell them where it was at. And if you couldn't tell them where it was at,
I did not know that.
That was not a good look. So you got to remember they put all of these protections in place for us too. People like they hate on the NRA, and I ain't got no love for the NRA, so I don't think I'm supporting them. But one of the things that they did do for their own kind was to make sure that certain things was in place, like you couldn't have a registry of who had what. You know what I'm saying? You couldn't. They made sure you can't do that. You can't go door to door and know what we got in this house. But they about to change that.
Right.
There was a time when there was no limit on how much ammo you could have. Now you buy 1,000 rounds, they got to get a phone call on you. These are things that came out of the 94, the Brady. But then in 2003, a lot of people don't know this, but they had this thing called the Tierhart Amendment. And the Tierhart Amendment was a prohibition that the ATF, that stopped them from public releasing data where criminals purchased their firearms. They won't even go tell you no more. ATF was like, nope, we didn't release that information. That's going to stay with us. Okay. And then George Bush, the one that we hated so much, not Junior, Senior, he passed a law. And then his son came behind him and passed the Protection of Lawful Commerce Act. See all these laws I'm telling y'all about? That was in 2005. Then when Obama came in, so y'all got to realize everybody got their hand in this pot. But the crazy person that wanted to be in the pot, he's now the president. The bro that wanted to be in it was Biden. And they were like, nah, bro, because you anti-gun all the way across. You don't even understand what's happening. Now he's the president. Now you're going to pay $200 per high-capacity magazine on your taxes. Now you're going to pay taxes on your weapons. That's another thing that the brother just said. That's how they're going to stop you from selling your weapon to somebody else. Because if you do, you got to pay a tax on it. That means you got to report that to the IRS. The same way they developed the NICS, the NICS background check system after the Brady bill, because now they wanted background checks. And if you're going to buy a firearm, they established the database. But couldn't nobody see it but law enforcement. Now, it's about to be a whole new game. This is the world we live in right now. And because of the world we live in right now, and we're not going to stay on the gun thing. What I'm really talking about is the atmosphere that we live in as a people. We have to be aware when there's backlash coming against us. We have to speak up when we're overlooked. Like we just got overlooked when they handed out all the goodies and all the bills to everybody. We didn't get nothing again. Okay? So my thing is, as I said before, when you ask me about like the brother said, I'm a gun guy too, but I'm not a gun nut. There's a difference.
Right.
I'm a gun guy. I believe in defending myself. I believe we should all be able to defend ourselves. But I would never encourage anyone to attack anyone unless you can sustain the attack. Meaning don't respond out of emotion when it comes to guns. That's the wrong thing to do. A gun is a tool to get your point across.
Very much so.
And the reason I think that not just myself, but most people ask you about NFAC is because of how successful you have gotten with INFAC. It's like when people say they a victim of their success, so to speak. Do you think that we look at you, like you are in fact, when in actuality it's a global brand? Does that make sense?
Too
much on the leader.
First of all, let me salute all of the members of the NFAC around the world. I have to say I have never been more humbled by a devoted group of people who stay focused on the goal, even if the goal won't be achieved in our lifetime. So I have to send out a salute to them. I have to also, since you brought it up, I have to also give a special salute to the NFAC in the United Kingdom, which has been steadily doing protests at all of the U.S. embassies and the Buckingham Palace for about a month now to have the charges against me dropped and to put some pressure on the U.S. government to bring some attention globally to what's happening to me here in the United States. So it's not so much of being a victim of my success. There's no success here. We have not won anything as of yet.
Mhm.
There are those who feel like what we did here in the United States really didn't amount to anything. They'll say, well, they just walked around and didn't do anything. No, nobody shot at us. That's what happened. We showed up at the party and nobody wanted to dance. So what were we supposed to do? There are those who will say that, well, anybody can do that. If anybody could have done it, it would have been done in the last 60 years since the Panthers did it back in the 60s. So I would say that it's not so much a measure of success. It's a measure of how many people understand that what we did and what we're doing is necessary, and what we did before, those methods cannot work anymore. They don't work. They have become immune to them. When I was a child, my mother would beat me with a switch that she would get off of a tree, because the grandmother used to tell you, go get the switch. Y'all remember that? And then they run their hand down the stick and go zzz, and you knew if it made that noise. Y'all know that noise. Don't act like I'm the only one. When you heard that, man, you went from being, you wasn't hard no more. You just broke down because you knew the pain was coming. But eventually I got used to it. I got immune to it. She would hit me and I would take it, just looking at her. That's what back in the day, kids, we didn't care. We just taking it. She telling you, cock out. He said nothing. And when he realized that don't work, they go get something worse.
Yeah.
To reset your focus. And that's where we are right here. A lot of people don't realize that what INFACT is doing around the world. Somebody told me once, they said, well, I don't get it. INFACT hasn't done anything. I said, that's interesting. Blacks stood up, laws got changed. Stone Mountain, the laws got changed. Breonna Taylor, we got traction on the case. And even though the charges were flimsy, they came out with something and they settled it out, didn't they? Trayford Pellerin down in Louisiana, we came down there and got the people riled up, and also let the congressman know that these black folks got relatives in other parts of the country and you ain't gonna do them any kind of way. Now they have a black police chief. They got rid of the one that I dealt with, and they've even got some other black folks in power down there now. Inspire the world when we were down. You see, we were down on our knees last year. Everybody was, especially us. We was at the bottom of the ladder on our knees.
Yeah.
And at a time when somebody needed to speak up and tell us to stand up, shake it off, walk it off, toughen it up, and remember who the hell we are, and inspire the whole world, because the timing was right. That's the major thing. And more than anything else, taught us that it's okay to love ourselves again. People say that we kick-started the black movement, gave it a shot in the arm that it needed. Now everybody's juiced up, and that's a good thing. Gun sales through the roof for black folks, to the point where the white folks are saying it ain't no more ammo, it ain't no more guns. We need to check everything now. And just as you said before, the NFAC has become a force worldwide to be reckoned with, not as a threat, but as a building block for all black people to have something that we can call our own to determine our own future, even if we got an infight about it. But at the end of the day, it's ours. So when people said that to me, I said, well, isn't it interesting that the feds just announced that they're now investigating the Louisville Metro Police Department because of their practices? I wonder what spurred that. We're in the season of the needle and the bullet. I taught about it. I told you all this was coming. Now the vaccines, which are nothing more than a test trial, or they'll probably cut you off for me saying this. But if you haven't watched the needle or the bullet, just go back and watch it. I don't have to say nothing here. Y'all know what it is. And if you've taken the vaccine, no comment. Until we stand up differently. Until we stand up differently, they will continue to step on us the same old way. Black people, you have forgotten your mission. When I was in the Army, they used to always tell us, you have one mission should you become a prisoner of war. One mission: escape. Never give up escaping. Never try. Never stop trying. We were slaves, irregardless of how we got here, and some of us was already here. The escape is not physical. We still haven't escaped mentally.
Facts. Facts.
Great.
Can we do a better job of resolving our differences?
The beauty of us as a people is that our differences are what make us great. If we could learn that we are a people of many differences, many opinions, we're a jazzy people, we're a creative people, we're an imaginative people. So we're not always going to be an agreeable people. But even when white people are at war, they can get together on your ass. The beauty of the NFAC is that we don't ask anyone to forsake whatever your point of view is, as long as it's not something to get everybody murdered. You can be a part of us, part of the coalition, and still stand your ground. We're respecting your differences. Doesn't make a difference who you worship. Doesn't make a difference, where you're from. Doesn't make a difference. I told you all, just be black. And a lot of people find that so hard to do because they've been brainwashed and they're so used to being anything but that. Until we learn that none of us are going to agree 100% of the time, and that our differences are just that. The same way we're all entitled to our opinions. You're entitled to a different perspective all you want. But if we're going to get somewhere as a people, there are some things that we have to agree to disagree on and move on. We can argue over who's going to sit in the front and sit in the back all day, but as long as the car is going where we got to go, I don't care. I'm driving. Y'all figure that out while we move it. But that's not what we do as a people. We want to stop the car. We got to get out the car. Everybody got to get all blowed up, swole up. The car ain't going nowhere. Somebody done lost the keys. Now guess what? Now we didn't pay the note on the car. They done took the car. Now we back at the house. Got to start all over again. We done lost our job. Now we got to get a job to get some more money, to get into another car and get over our differences and hope to get where the hell we were supposed to be getting.
But are you okay with somebody else driving the car?
I don't care who drives the car.
Okay.
It's not about who drives the car. I think that's what everybody's problem is.
I think so too. I would agree.
It's not about who drives the car. It's about, number one, who bought the car. Number two, who picked you up. Number three, do you have a driver's license? Number four, do you know how to take care of the car so it don't break down or get lost? And most importantly, are you qualified to drive the car? Not by man, but by the Most High. That's the same speech that they had when Moses went up on the mountain and took too long. All of a sudden, it became a discussion about, well, maybe one of us should drive the car. Maybe one of us should handle the worship. Maybe one of us, because, he been gone too long. How we know he ain't up there and he ain't never coming back? He brought us out here for nothing and got us lost. We don't know why he did this. Matter of fact, when he took us out of Egypt, he was full of shit anyway. Now we all out here and we stuck. No, we should drive the car. And you saw how that ended, didn't you?
It does not end well, but I see that as a problem within the community a lot.
Well, you know why?
People, ego?
No. Let's be clear. Individualism has been infected and injected into us as people. It was never a part of our society. We were always a communal group, family, a village. That's how we was. Matter of fact, y'all remember when you grew up in certain neighborhoods. Yeah. You couldn't go into a certain neighborhood to see somebody because everybody around there knew each other. And if you showed up over there and didn't nobody know you, or you couldn't say the right name or the house you was going to, you didn't make it out of that neighborhood in one piece. And y'all know I'm telling the truth.
Facts.
We had a tribal sense. There was a time where if you fought one person in the family, you had to fight the whole damn family. That's just the way it was. And that was, the mama said so. Man. You couldn't come home talking about I got beat up. You got beat up. Oh, no, the Johnsons don't get beat up. You understand what I'm saying? We've lost that. Now we're individualists. We only think about ourselves and the people in our immediate vicinity. That's all we care about. We can get with the group, but really we're only there for self. That's the main motivation behind looting. They don't give a damn about what's really going on. They think about themselves. This is an opportunity for me to get something for me. That's it. So individualism has infected us as a race. But when something happens that requires leadership, when something happens that requires direction, when something happens that determines the course of where we're going to go next, most of us, because of individualism, resort to emotionalism. You see, let's not get confused. It wasn't because I didn't have anything better to do. Mm-hmm. I ran for the presidency of the United States for several reasons, but most importantly, because I was qualified. So anyone that thinks that it's easy to jump into a position of leadership, especially for your people, and not be aware of all of the drama that's coming and not be prepared to mitigate it, not being prepared to navigate it, negotiate it, or as it's already been said in many other publications, knowing how to eradicate it. I told y'all, in order for us to truly be free, we're going to have to fight some of our own people.
Yeah, and I guess that's why I'm not in no leadership role, man, because some of the shit's just ridiculous, bro. It just seems I've been awe at you know, a lot of people in leadership roles, because it's great when it's great, but when it's not great, it's horrible.
Well, I don't know about that. Let me tell you why I say that, my brothers. I have seen horrible things said about me, none of which are true. I have seen people that I thought I knew pretty well show their true colors and only satisfied definitions of some of the characters you see in the Bible. I have seen my people get fired up, ready to roll, not having it no more, but believing that they live in a microwave society where you're going to get instant results. And that's not the way this thing works. So when you don't get that instant result and you realize it might take a while and you might have to put in some work and you might not even be here for the results. Remember, this is for the kids. Then all of a sudden, people show you their true colors. And when you start to see that as a leader, you don't respond to everything you see. You make note of it. These are indicators of the climate. These are indicators of the temperature of the people. Plus, on top of that, everybody doesn't come to the table with the same agenda. If I'm all about liberation and reparations for my people, but all you're about is recognition and financial gain for yourself, if you're the kind of individual who truly believes that we have arrived and that it gets no better than what we have right here in this country and in some other places around the world, then yeah, you would find it in your good graces to infiltrate an organization to tear them down because you like it the way it is. You don't want to go nowhere where we all got to pull our own weight. You don't want to go nowhere where everybody you see, everybody you answer to look like you. You don't really want that. There's a lot of people like that. And then last but not least, there's a whole segment in our population that have been bullied. They've been teased. They've been picked on because they're biracial. They didn't ask to be biracial. They are the result of biracial parents, but they're born into a racist world. So they don't know where they belong. So they want to be over here with their brothers and sisters, but sometimes they don't fit over there. So they over here with the mayonnaise people, and it's confusing. And they got to be taken into consideration too. And some of those people can come with an agenda. So there's a lot of different things, a lot of moving parts you cannot get mixed up in. Here's why. What did I say before? And I've said this many times on many shows. Unity is not everybody getting over their differences. That's not unity. Unity doesn't mean we all under the same umbrella. That's not unity. Unity is all of us being on one idea at the exact same time and don't focus on nothing else. If 9 of us was in an elevator and we didn't know each other, one person on their phone, somebody doing their makeup, somebody reading a book, you might be drinking a soda or something, and the elevator stop and jerk, and we don't know what's going on.
We all
Everybody
yeah.
is unified in getting out of there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And it didn't take no meetings. It didn't take where you from. It didn't take I don't work with women. It's we getting the hell up out of here. If the house catch on fire, if the club catch on fire, everybody knows the head for the door. They unified trying to get out of there. That's unity. Every time one of these white boys does a mass shooting and shoots up a bunch of stuff, white people unify. They don't care what he did. They wrap their arms around him. Yeah, he a little special. You know what I'm saying? Oh, we're going to put some money behind him too. Oh, yeah. But he done killed all these people.
They still don't.
The Asians said, we're not having it. You're not doing this to us. You're not going to treat us like this. What happened? They wrapped their arms around their peoples. They put $3 million on it. They put $6 million. They didn't care. This us. Even though we've been watching sisters get their ass handed to them in nail salons, it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
But black people, unless somebody is dead, look, let me say this. I'm just gonna go there with the brothers. What do y'all think would have happened if you had woke up Thursday morning, December the 3rd of 2020, and the news was this? Police are investigating a raid at the home of a black militia leader. The black militia leader, Grandmaster Jay, was killed in a fiery exchange with federal officers of the Joint Task Force as they attempted to serve a no-knock warrant. Johnson, y'all be sitting there like, whoa,
Right.
He went out in a hail of bullets. Oh, y'all have been all out in the street marching and waving signs and justice for Jay. That's what we do. But if Martin Luther King or Malcolm X or any of those people that we love to lift up from 6 decades ago were alive today and they did to them what they're doing to me, I really wonder what kind of response we would see from the black community. Because they say the way you treat your leaders is the same way, you treat God. You believe him, but you don't believe what he says.
I think
that's what we do with our black leaders. We'll sit back and spectate. Yeah. I'm just keeping it a buck. I'm sorry, I just gotta say this. Not hating on nobody. I'm just telling you what we do as a people. These are observations that people are making from overseas. The people overseas are watching this. Yeah. And they're going, okay, they grabbed your boy. We thought we were going to see the biggest demonstration in the history of, okay, well, no, that didn't happen. Okay, they got your boy, and y'all say the charges is bogus. Okay. Okay, so y'all just waiting to see what happened. Oh, so y'all, okay.
Yeah. Yep. And we're going to be honest.
Yeah.
And I know we ain't got but a few more minutes to go, but let me ask you this. Is there any criticism that you've heard of you that you thought was fair?
I think that all criticism is fair. Everyone's entitled to their opinion. You can criticize me all you want, but if you're stating a fact, make sure you have the receipts to back it up, not something that's been whipped up on the internet. People can criticize all they want. You see, I was raised this way. They say you can talk to God all day. That's really not important. What's important is if he talks back to you, and he don't talk back to everybody. So people can criticize all they want. Only thing that I have to say is this: there's constructive criticism and there's destructive criticism. So if you want to criticize the movement, or you want to criticize the black militia, or you want to criticize me as a person, then you're entitled to your opinion. But I always ask people this: whenever someone criticizes someone, always ask them this: how does this profit us? You in my ear talking about this brother right here, but okay, I hear you, but how does this profit me? Okay, if it doesn't profit me, get out my ear. And if you're criticizing someone because of your own shortcomings, remember there's an old saying, we always accuse somebody of what we would do if we were in that situation.
Yeah, I don't think I ever heard that one. That's true. That is very true, man. Wow, man. And man, it's always an honor. And it's like my thing is, and I like to think kind of like me and Rome. We don't like to tear down any of our leaders. Ain't nobody perfect. People going, everybody is a person. You are not flawless. You know, but we like to focus on the greatness in the individual.
Well, brother, hold on
Try
a
not
second. When did we as a people get infected with perfectitis? See, that's something that we don't bought into.
That's a good question.
When did all of a sudden you got to be perfect to hold a job? Don't you know half the people in Congress got criminal records? If you go and look at some of the stuff they've done. And most importantly, when did we become a people who don't give credit to people for growth? Malcolm X was Malcolm Little, but y'all like to ignore that. And anybody watching this broadcast knows if you could meet yourself 5 years ago, you're not the same person you was then. You probably wasn't even doing the same thing you was doing then. If you're in your 40s, 50s, or 60s, you probably had 4 or 5 different jobs. You probably been a radio broadcaster, a preacher, and a truck driver. You've done whatever it took to survive. But all of us should be growing. And it's very scary when someone thinks that you're the same person that you was 5, 10, 25, 35 years ago. Only a fool makes that type of mistake. I love all of you all. I love all my Black people, brothers. I'm so glad y'all had me on. Anybody who's still interested can donate to my legal defense fund. The GoFundMe site is still up. I'm still fighting these cases in spite of what the naysayers are saying. And yes, these are very expensive cases. So you do what you do. If not, I can understand, but you can go to GoFundMe, the Legal Defense Fund. If you're still interested and want to learn more about the NFAC, you can shoot an email to us at info@blackinterfac.com. If you're in the UK, same thing. It's info UK@blackinterfac.com. And anyone else who's curious about the NFAC, please feel free to just shoot us some general questions. We're more than happy to talk about the organization, what our qualifications are, what our mission statement is, and what was asked today, what is our next plan? Our next plan is the same thing I was working on before, and that was us going out into the neighborhoods and actually setting up the community policing models and the assembly of the million to a gun march, which still needs to happen. And it wasn't just to walk around. It was a demonstration of population so that we could apply for our liberation. Thank you for your time, gentlemen. I'm so glad we had a chance to hang out.
Always a pleasure, King.
Always a pleasure.
Thank you. And like you say, man, go to the GoFundMe, look up Grandmaster J, donate what you can. This shit is not cheap at all. If you've ever had to deal with any type of court, imagine, because most people have no clue about federal court. So if you've had to deal with state court or city court and you had to bring an attorney, imagine that shit times 100. And you'll kind of get the gist of it at that point. Rome, you got anything you want to say before we out of here, bro?
I just want to thank Grandmaster Jay again for his time, man. It's always a pleasure. Appreciate the build.
And, hey, brother, it's always a pleasure to hear your voice, man. It's always good to sit down with like-minded brothers where we can sit and build and put some things out, and hopefully somebody learns something from watching this pre-recorded broadcast.
Absolutely. And let's re-emphasize that this is a pre-recorded broadcast. We are not live. I'm just recording it. We'll put it out at some point in the future. But don't forget to check out the website, liberationmindedmedia.com. And holler at us. We'll keep you in touch, and we will be chopping it up with Grandmaster J in the future. Love you, bruh. Have a good one. Peace.
Life, power, hoodoo to all of you. Shalom.
Shalom.